Hello, hello. Happy Tuesday, everybody. And we have another edition of the Legacy Project. It's just, I can't get over how fast time. I mean, it's just amazing. I was talking to a friend of mine. It was like the older I'm getting, the faster life goes. I'm not sure if it's energy wise. I'm not sure if because we have technology instantaneously, who knows, but we're here again. And we have a really awesome show today. When Albert and I we came together last year during the holidays, and this whole thing is developed into something that we could have never really imagined. I think we had an idea, but to really flourish and to really grow, him and I both as individuals, and also as we're interviewing people, and so this topic, we normally text each other, what sounds good, or we'll have guests on. And this was kind of a random one, I think, because just where we are in life, he's not a little boy anymore. He's a man, and so him and I relate to a lot of topics together. And this one, episode 37, can men be happy? I thought would be a really interesting topic, and we'd love for you to chime in, by the way, because if you're a woman, you may not understand what we're talking about. And why I'm saying that is because you operate differently than us. You're designed differently than us. You're designed to nurture and to love and to care and to emotionally be there. And we're not designed that way. We're designed completely different. We're designed to do and to become and to lead and to protect and to provide and all those actionable items that we're supposed to do. And so, yeah, I love to see where this rabbit hole goes. And I'll pass it on to you, bro.
Thanks for introing. Yeah, this one's interesting because part of our Constitution, not to get too radical here, is the pursuit of happiness. Right? There's a movie about it. Great Will Smith movie, one of my favorites. And it seems like that early on is pressed on us, and it kind of makes sense, when you first think about it. Like the pursuit of happiness is like, what are you trying to like feel fulfilled about? I think it has a really good premise on it. And my mindset has shifted a lot over the last couple years. Part of the rabbit hole we might go down is like, what's coaching versus therapy? I think this might transcend into that little category where when I was first learning how to understand like my emotional intelligence, understand like how to communicate that to myself first and then to the outer world. My thoughts was, how do I be happy? And then it becomes so like happy, happy, happy. Like every small little detail, every small little action becomes that, because that ingrained like pursuit of happiness is the goal, right? And I felt myself putting a lot of pressure on this idea of wanting to be happy all the time. And I think a lot of people can relate to that right now, because we're told to always have this like positive aspect of it, and I think you can be positive, but that doesn't also necessarily mean you have to be happy all the time. So I'm excited to explore this a little bit more, because how did you know, when was there a specific timeline for you that you ever felt like you needed to be happy all the time? Was there something that sparked in you, like, oh, I don't need to have this joy 24/7? Was there a specific moment like it clicked for you?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I'm gonna reverse it a little bit. I think the word happy, we have to define what the definition is. And happy and happiness is a feeling. It's an emotion.
Right.
An end product, end result of something. So I don't think I was taught to go be happy. I was taught, go do this and then you'll get happiness from this. And I think that's why the premise is completely fucked, is because we're being taught that the only way to acquire this happiness is by doing certain things, get a degree, go get married, go have kids, all these external factors. And I think the definition, if your definition of happiness is a way of life or a feeling, understand feelings are so fragmented. And I was talking to my friend today, like happiness is a moment. It's not a life
Mm-hmm.
event. And I think that's where a lot of men specifically have a hard time because their definition of happiness is skewed. It's skewed by their wife, their girlfriend, their family members, their friends, what society's telling them. And so to answer your question, I don't think that I ever really thought about what's going to make me happy. I think I've always thought like, if I go do this, then I'll become happy. And part of that was being married, having kids. And I think that's why my definition got flawed because I was looking for happiness in all the wrong places.
Yeah, you make a really good point where it's like it's part of the chase is defined by that happiness, right? Because it's so moment by moment. Um, I'm just thinking ahead. Like, was there a certain timeline? Just because you've lived 50 years on this life, right? Is there a certain timeline when you notice like a shift of that narrative being a thing, or I mean, it could be a culture thing, like the way you grew up as well.
So
Was there?
I can tell you, I can tell you when I was most happy is when I was playing baseball as a young man, when I was playing sports, when I had the girl of my dreams a couple of times for moments of my life, when I became a father. But if you notice, those are moments I'm
Right.
talking about. I think that's what my main premise is. I think a lot of men view that in order for them to be successful, they have to be happy. That doesn't work that way. Happiness is earned by a struggle, by an adversity, by a thing. I think we become happy in a moment after we've accomplished something really good, after we've achieved something really good, after we've done something that's really difficult. We find our happiness in the end result of something that we've accomplished, as opposed to being, okay, I got I closed 30 deals this year. I'm gonna go fuck it off for a month in Tahiti and just drink my life away. I think that's where a lot of people they get this flawed sense of happiness that it's this end product of I'm gonna have somebody feed me grapes and massage my feet all day. That's not what happiness is. Happiness is an emotion, like I keep saying.
Hmm. Yeah, because I don't even think I really thought about happiness until I got older too. Like you mentioned when you're playing, that's when I feel the most like alive is like when I'm playful, when I feel like I'm pushing my
Yeah.
body, when I'm doing something that brings me joy. Maybe that could be a difference because joy and happiness are similar, but they're a little bit different. It feels like joy can be a little bit more prolonged, but again, even that is a fleeting feeling, right? And so basing it off of just happiness, I think has been talked about a lot more because we want to be grateful. We have all these like buzzwords of like feeling these positive emotions, but just remembering like why we feel this. I think that could be something we explore now. So why do you think that the positive emotions are so much more impactful than the negative ones? Like, is it just because like the feeling that we get?
No, I can tell you. So great softball, by the way. That's a great softball. Thank you. So there's an emotional chart that's available to everybody online. Okay, and it's an emotional frequency. It's a frequency chart. And those frequencies range from 0 all the way to, let's say, 700 or 800 or whatever the number is going to be. The lowest is being shame, and the highest is being enlightenment. And within this range is emotion. It's a frequency. So at the bottom, it's shame, guilt, apathy, anger, fear. Okay, all of those are low frequencies. And then the middle frequency, it's something like courage. It's like I think it is joy. It's and it's love and then and
Yeah.
okay. And so, but you can't be in the same frequency chart at the same time. So the reason why the feeling of joy or a happiness feeling happens is because your frequency has been raised to feel that way. That's why it's a feeling and it's fleeting. And when we find ourselves, again, this is really important because if we're trying to stay at this happy, joyful state, what's required? Your frequency must be raised.
Mm.
Well, you can only keep your frequency raised at a certain level by doing things that's going to raise it. So if you're a cheater, if you're someone who has zero integrity with your life and you're embezzling money, and you might have happiness for a moment because you got this stuff, you're going to be taken back down to this lower frequency because you're going to have guilt, shame, apathy, all these things come to fruition at some point in time. So it's really important. Someone asked me, so how do you get out of a negative emotion? You can get out of a lot of ways. So you can get out of these guilt, shame. That's why medication, I think, is so bad for people, because it's not the medication that's going to cure this emotional track. It's going to numb it. You have to figure out a way. That's why it's working out, stress relief, working out, yoga, running. You and I talked about giving away what you want, which is sending someone a text like, "Hey, I'm thinking about you today. Love you. Have a great day." All of these things can raise your vibration, but too many people are stuck in, I'm going to be happy. And they're saying, I'm happy today. But their body's showing, their frequency is what we frequently see. We see that you're not happy. You can say you're happy, but your energy and your frequency is going to say something different because you're at a lower vibration. So that's a great segue into that.
I know it's kind of basic to call like happiness as a verb. You have to say gratitude is a verb. You used something this week as a verb, and I was like,
Mindset.
mindset that's what it was, yeah. Um, Maybe happiness might be a verb. The action of it is not just an emotion. I mean, clearly it's a noun, right? But it's more like just the idea of like you have to show that you want to do something like that.
Yeah.
And at least for men, at least I
Yeah.
feel like the only reason why I can be happy is if I'm doing the things that I say that I actually want to do,
Yeah.
and not doing things that I feel obligated to do. There's going to be some responsibility and duty in there too, and
So,
it gets you get trapped in that too. I think what you were talking about too is like that that desire to want to feel that higher frequency, but there's a gap in there, right? There's some reason why we're not there consistently. There's some reason why we keep putting ourselves lower. Um, we talked a little bit about the law of reciprocity last week. I was talking to my men's group about it. I didn't get back to you on it, but the one that we were talking about, how you have to be able to receive it as well. I think this might go hand in hand with it too. Like, are you able to are you fully able to understand what your happiness is, and are you fully able to understand like what it takes to get there? I
yeah.
think that might be a missing link, is realizing that your your desire to want to get the end result but not understand what it takes to bring yourself up there is the gap that we're missing. And I know you talk a lot about it with your coaching clients as well.
Yeah. So I can give you something real. Like, I find myself every day flowing through each emotion. I told you that today. I was dealing with some massive guilt this past week that had to do with my older daughter. And and how I got happy is after we talked about it, there were some words that were exchanged that are very positive, and that moment made me feel happy. So my frequency changed. My emotions changed from guilt and apathy to happiness. Why? Because I took action that was uncomfortable. That's why I said it's a verb. It's a verb because I took action. If I would have hold on to it, or if I would have written it down or did something, just thought about it, that is not helping you get out of that state. So the question I would ask you is, how do you get out of a negative emotion? If you're trying to
The only
be positive,
the,
how do you get out of that negative emotion?
you was that rhetorical?
Yeah, I'm asking.
Yeah, no. The only way I really know how to do it is to write it out or move it out. Those are probably the only two ways. That sometimes talking about it helps, but my default is to move, because
Yeah,
it like there's something about moving, jumping rope is what I've been doing recently, just to move the body, because
yeah,
then everything's
yeah.
activated, right?
Absolutely. And there's been studies. Studies been shown. I don't have the exact science behind it, but I've heard studies shown that negative energy is so powerful. That's why when you think of something positive, it can go away quickly because the negative energy is so powerful. The only way you can get rid of negative energy isn't by thinking positive, it's by doing something positive. That's the only way. You can't say you're negative. Oh, I'm not negative anymore. It doesn't work that way. You have to, because your mind is smarter than what you think. It's no, you're bullshitting me. You're still right. So for me, I can tell you, I don't know why, but for whatever reason, when you said, can you define, when you're a low frequency state and people were there, I remember, bro, almost 5 years ago to the month coming up. I was, you know the story. I was in my bed with at 9 in the morning with a fucking hard alcohol, right, old fashioned, and I remember feeling so down. I was so down, and I was like, I felt shame, guilt. I couldn't just talk my way out of it. I literally was in that state for days because I wasn't doing enough to get out of it because I was in this death spiral. And the only thing that changed for me is that when I finally decided to, I didn't know this at the time, but to go start working out and start reading and start developing these new habits, that action every morning gave me confidence that I could move in a different direction. That's why I talk about it so much, that in order for you to change your frequency, you have to move and you have to do something that's going to change that habit.
Yeah, a lot of people talk about being in a rut. You know, a lot of, like I felt where the mundane kind of becomes overwhelming, and you feel like you're just doing the same thing over and over again, right? And that's life, right? It's all about chop wood, carry water. Before enlightenment,
Yeah.
you do chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, you do the exact same
Uh,
thing, right? And so, um, I've been talking with some buddies of mine because they've been feeling like they've been going in a rut too, and it's we all say the same thing. It's working out. That's the only way to get it out. And I think a big thing that I've noticed too with younger people, like in their mid 20s, is doing things just for other people too. We talk about it a lot where like people pleasing tends to be something that like feels natural to people because we want to make everyone else either be happy, make them like us, you
yeah.
know. So I wanted to know about your thoughts too, um, in terms of like when you try to build your relationship not only with yourself but with other people. Like, have you noticed in points in your time, like points in your life, when you try to make other people happy
Yeah.
just so that they can feel more comfortable, like in a
Yeah.
relationship or like in a conversation?
So something happened to me today. I love you brought this up. So I had an appointment with my broker today about doing something specific for a client. Now I need to do this for this client, but I have this new relationship that I'm building with an agent of mine, and he called me and he's like, "Hey, bro, we're going to be doing this because we're working on a project together." And I had to make a decision: is what was more important to me? Was it, yes, I needed to meet with the broker to go over this, but what was more important to me? The old version was, well, I committed to Pete, and we were going to sit down and go over this because I told him I was going to do that, but then, I'll get back to Aaron and do something later. No, I said to myself, Albert, what's important to you? So I text my broker, hey, bro, can we get together tomorrow? He's like, great. Told Aaron, I'm going to be over there in a half hour. So what I learned how to do is I learned how to not say, is someone going to get mad at me? Is someone not going to like me? Are they going to think about me differently? I started to stop thinking about everybody else. This literally happened today, dude, at fucking 11:30 today. But I caught myself. I'm like, damn, that felt good. Because for the first time in my life, starting a few years ago, I started, what is best for me? And then how do I communicate it? Because I could have just blown that guy off. Now he's going to be mad at me. No, I owned it. I reached out. It was okay. And if it wasn't, it still would have been okay. And it all worked out because I put what I needed for me, what was most beneficial for me and the situation, ahead of what everybody else needed.
Yeah, and it's so hard to do that too. You feel like when you say something and you want to commit to it. That's the thing about pivoting. I think is really important too. Is it'll actually Jocko talks about all the time. Discipline equals freedom.
Yeah.
That also includes with you being able to be disciplined enough to say, hey, this is not in my plan for
Yeah.
today, and you being able to pivot and communicate that with someone else, right? And I wanted to first, like, again, softball pitch that one because the theme of like individuality versus teamwork in a relationship is like keeps coming up for me a lot, and we talked about it a little bit today, where like loyalty and where um, we're working together as a unit seems like it's so far and few right now, unless you're in like a corporate job or unless you're in like a physical team environment. It seems like there's been a lack of, at least in our culture, of like feeling like we can be happy working with someone else in unison because everyone's on their own agenda, right? So for someone that like my age, just starting off in the world and knowing that you have all this time, knowing that you have all this way of to do whatever anything that you want, anything you desire, anything that makes you happy, right? For like a young man or a young woman trying to figure out themselves in the world, what have you noticed and learned about yourself to rely on someone, but not to the point of codependency?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it has to do with asking questions, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, for example, a relationship that I'm working with right now, it's like I have to tell that person what I need. Here's what I need. And we've been talking more and more about it. Here's what I need. And is this something that you can provide? I used to never ask that before because I was afraid of the answer.
Yeah.
And I think more and more now, if there's a young individual that's out there that wants to, let's say, for example, someone wants to meet with me that's your age, just wants to know about the whatever life, great. I'll meet with you, but I'm not going to talk to you.
Mm.
Like, so what is it that you need from me? Like, what do you want? And why is that important to you? You know, I'm gonna digress a little bit. I had a conversation with a man yesterday. I told you about his grandson, and he's telling me all these things about his grandson, about what he's doing for him, and he's drinking, and he's just he's not doing what he needs to do to make it in life. And grandma and grandpa are there to support him.
Yeah.
And I go, can I ask you a question? He's like, yeah. You're not gonna like the question, so I'm gonna let you know now. I go, does he want to live or die? And he goes, well, he says he wants to live, but sometimes he says he wants to die. He goes, he doesn't want to die. If he wanted to die, he'd kill
Mm-hmm.
himself. He's looking for attention. I go, I'm being really hard on you because you're not helping this young man out. You're hurting him because you're not telling him the truth. And I think that's where this all comes from, is being able to be honest with somebody about what you need, because they're not mind readers, and we're expecting this world to think we know what we want, but we're not telling them. That's selfish.
Mm.
So if somebody's going to come to me for support, I'm going to want to know now, what are you willing to give up to get that support? Way different. I used to bring everybody on. No, no, no. Okay, you're telling me you want this. Are you willing to give up this one thing you're holding on to get it? Maybe it's a vice. Maybe it's a bad habit. Maybe it's smoking. Maybe it's drinking. Whatever it is, are you willing to give up this thing that's holding you back to get what you want? If the answer is I don't know, maybe, sorta, you're not ready. It means no. Does that answer the question a little bit?
Yeah, it it really does, because it's funny what we'll do when we actually know that there's something drastic that's going to happen. And I just was watching something on TikTok the other day where it's like, if you knew you had a year and you're going to die or and lose all your loved ones or make $1 million, you'd figure it out how to do it, right? And it's going to be like applied to anything that you want, right? Like you'll find a way to do it if you know that there's a desired timeline. That's a good question, actually. I'll answer in just a moment. Where you we have the time, we have the resources, it's all in front of us, right? But what are we doing to really dissect what's going on? And maybe you don't even need to dissect, it's just right in front of you. And um, what is the one thing you're willing to do so that everything else in your life can make become way easier? And so I know for me, like it's just procrastination and overthinking, right? And so all this stuff is right in front of me. I know what I need to do, and then just release everything and let all the training that I've done so far just be there. And like you said, communicate that to other people because people want to help. And yeah, it's fascinating how much we want to overthink stuff like that too. So Steph said, how does a person shift from being the glue?
Yeah, great question. So here's my thought. So I met this man yesterday. He was in his 70s, his grandfather, and this will relate a lot. Is I asked him, he kept complaining about his grandson coming over. He goes, yeah, my wife and I keep getting mad at him. You know, we told him to put his laundry, and he did it, and his dirty clothes where it's not supposed to be. And then, you know, we're making dinner for him, and he's not cleaning up. And I went like this. I go, I put a cup right here. I go, why are you cleaning up for him? He's like, huh? I go, why are you putting that cup away from him? And I said, you know what you do the next time he doesn't put his laundry away? You don't let him take a shower at your house. So to answer your question is that you can't be the glue.
Mm-hmm.
There's control there. You got to let that person learn how to develop their own glue system. You can show them, but if you continue being the glue, that means you're codependent. That means you're part of the problem. And that's what I told him. I go, you know you're part of the problem, right? She heard me, right? She heard me. So you know you're part of the problem, right? And he goes, yeah. And I go, I'm just being firm with you because you're not doing anything bad, my friend. I go, it's not that you're doing anything wrong, but the young man cannot learn how to be a man in this world if you're not letting him struggle and find out what a consequence is. If you're constantly picking up after him, all you're doing, yeah, they've been doing it for 26 years with this kid. So all you're doing is you're debilitating this young man. He's not going to be able to compete with someone like me or my son because we have developed this nature of, I'm going to go on a tangent now. The reason why this is, can men be happy? The answer is no. Men don't have the luxury of being happy. Happy means like every day we're happy, happy. No, we don't have the luxury. We don't operate that way. We have to be happily dissatisfied, where we can be happy for a moment, for things that we've accomplished for a moment. But as soon as we celebrate fuckery with drinking all weekend and celebrating because the 49ers won and we're drinking for a week and whatever, that's girls want to have fun. Men don't have that luxury of doing that. I learned the hard way. My son can vouch for me. I met a woman, it wasn't her, and all I did was party, travel, party, travel, party, travel. That's all I did.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the dad that he grew up with because I was having fun. I was happy. I was fucking miserable because I kept raising the bar. The bar was never high enough. That's why men can't be happy. As soon as we get comfortable, we read our own press clippings. We start listening to what everybody says. Our ego says, "Oh, you're comfortable now." The worst thing you can do, what men do when they get in relationships, and I was guilty of it, is we're all in, and we're all in. Guess what? Y'all leave because you don't like the man that we become. You want the man that was chasing you. You were chasing because there were qualities they had. You don't want that simp guy that we turn into because now we have the woman we have.
Yeah, that's interesting you say all in. And
Yeah.
that, because it's like, I don't know if I necessarily believe on that part of it. I think you'd be all in. And I think you believe this too. Like, if you're all in, that means you're able to be vulnerable, right? I guess that's where the distinction needs to be, right? For me, that's like if you can be vulnerable, open, communicate, and still be that person you are, you'll be fucking golden. Because then you have the support of the woman too to like be there, right? Um, but like in terms of the happiness portion, that's interesting. You went the comfortability route because I know the moment I'm like, okay, I've got everything made for me. Same between like confidence versus feeling comfortable. And I think these are two different things that we can kind of like go down. Is you can be confident enough to know that you have all this faith, that you have someone with you, you have all these abilities that you have. But if you're too comfortable, then everyone else is going to learn, everyone else is going to grow, and then it's going to wither away like that old person. Just like when you work out, right? If you don't work out the same way that you were for 5, 10 years, you're gonna slowly lose all that muscle mass. And if you try to gain more muscle, you're gonna have to push yourself a little bit harder. Um, so it's really easy to kind of fall back in those patterns if you are so comfortable.
So, question: How do you build confidence?
Oh, you have to practice. You have to practice whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
You have
So
to
what
do
happened?
it
So what
in a
happened?
way that pushes your mind.
For example, a great way is lifting weight, right? So if you lift 135, and let's say I lift 175, right? And that's all you can lift.
Yeah.
The only way you can learn how to lift more is by doing what?
You either do more volumes or increase the weight. Most likely increase the weight.
You have to break down the muscle, right?
Yeah.
More weight, more weight. And that requires stress, 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 stress. So you build confidence by doing what? Building stress.
Yeah.
I want to make that point. Comfortability is I no longer have to build my muscle anymore. That's the difference. I already got the muscle. I don't need to do it. They're way different. Confidence and comfortability are way different. Confidence is like, I got to do this again in order to stay sharp. Confidence isn't, cockiness is, I've done that
That
before. I can do
makes it.
it again.
Yeah.
So cockiness and comfortability are the same, I think.
Yeah.
But confidence and comfortability are completely different. It's my opinion.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point because like when you're cocky, that ego comes in too, telling you like, oh, I can just relax a little bit more. Oh, I already know this. Like that's when you turn like your ear off from your mentor, your coach, your teacher, your spouse, and then everything else gets shut off. You're not learning, or you're not even realizing the blind spot that you have too.
Yeah.
Um,
And this is why I say men can't be happy,
yeah.
because we are so little boys that once we feel this, we're little dogs. Once you tell us over and over and over, we're good, 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 we want you to pat us all the
Yeah.
time, right? We want you, that's all we want is validation, validation. That's how we're wired. But if we get too much of that dopamine, then we're searching for it in all the wrong places. That's why I said you can't be all in. I'm not saying not emotionally. What I'm saying is at some point in time, you can't be all in to where you get comfortable, where you don't do the same thing with that woman that you were doing before, that you don't take her out on dates, all these things. A lot, that's why I said all in. I'm glad we talked about it, because all in doesn't mean I'm not all in emotionally. It means I got to make sure I'm not all in to where I lose myself. Huge
Mm-hmm.
difference.
Yeah. That's a good point because it's a good distinction. Where you don't lose yourself. I think that's what you're talking about, right? You don't lose that edge, that little bit of like oomph that you need to like build it over and over again.
I've done it twice. That's why
That's
I've done
cool.
it twice. I've done it
Yeah.
twice. Your mom and that other woman.
Yeah.
So I'm saying with love. I know. That's why I'm being so adamant about this. No one may want to hear what I'm saying. It's all good, right?
Yeah.
I'm telling you the reality that what I went through was I was all in to where I don't need to do anything. I got comfortable. I was drinking. I was a dad already. I was all these things, but I didn't do what I needed to do to have purpose, to have a reason, to do other things when you guys were gone. I had nothing else to back up. That's why I'm so passionate about it, because men don't have the luxury of being happy.
Mm-hmm. And you just talked about purpose too. Purpose is you have to have it, and I think if you're happy, you don't really feel purposeful. You kind of just slow around,
Amen.
feel slow. I know I feel
Amen.
apathetic. I feel like I just don't know what to do. I feel lost. It's almost like the wanderer just in the desert. You
Yeah.
know, I feel like that's what happiness does to us. Is you feel like you don't know what to do. Um, like you said, I guess that's where the stress comes from. It's not bad stress. It's just what's needed. You need some sort of stress in your life to feel like you can push through something.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily even the accomplishing of it. It's more of the what are you doing to just move that needle just a little bit more in whatever you want to do, whatever you want to accomplish.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, let's think about this, right? So you had something recently happen with your business partner, right?
yeah,
And it was an involuntary stress
yeah,
that you didn't know was coming, and you had to deal with it a certain way. And good, bad, or the other, you dealt with it the best
yeah.
you could. Voluntary stress, you can still do
Mm-hmm.
that. You can wake up earlier. You can force yourself to write with your left hand. You can do all these things that make you uncomfortable in that stress moment. They say you got to do a contract instead of putting in the notes. You got to do it with your left hand. That's stressful. It's going to take you 8 hours to do it.
Yeah,
That type of stress is stuff that we haven't learned how to do. We've learned how to wait for stress to happen, and then maybe we'll deal with it, or maybe we won't. What I've had to learn how to do is I didn't know how to handle my I was an emotional wreck when I was married to your mom. I was an I never learned how to deal with my emotions. I didn't know men can't be emotional. I had
mm,
zero fucking idea. My dad was the most emotional man that I ever met, and I learned from him, and I thought that was okay. I didn't know that that was completely not only do women not want that, it's not safe and secure for people to feel
right.
around you. So what I had to learn is a whole new way. Okay, if I can get up a little early, if I restrict my diet, if I read a certain way, if I do a certain amount of push-ups or burp, whatever, if I inflict that stress that I don't want to do, now when other stuff comes in my life, I'm already used to that feeling. I can inflict more stress in my life voluntarily. Now that stress helps me deal with this stress, and now I'm not an emotional wreck. That's what a lot of men haven't understood, like this guy's grandson. His grandson hasn't dealt with real life stress because everybody keeps bailing him out.
Yeah, I think you just touched on something really critical with the frequency and the synchronicity of that.
Talk to me.
Well, it's it's kind of like when you start avoiding things, right? You start avoiding everything that you do. We call it a denial pile in my men's group. Like, what's the denial pile that you keep doing and you keep pushing off? It's going to grow, 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 grow. If you just keep denying that it's there, like putting your blinders on, it's good to have them when you need to get a task done. But if it's with a task that you know you need to get done, you're going to have a bad time, right? You know? So, what you're just talking about is when you have all these stresses, when you have all these stuff that you need to work through, it's gonna actually align. But a lot of times we think the more stress we're gonna have, the more unhealthy stress is
Yes.
gonna create a negative lifestyle. But the healthy stress is gonna actually make you very organized.
Yes.
Uh, and I think that's the key thing that really helped me mature is understanding that like my stresses are there no matter what. And I can think about it as a stress, but that's just going to probably make me
Yeah.
more stressed.
Yeah. 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 So again, Kim made me happy. I'm gonna, the best feeling in the world. I know you haven't done this yet, so I'm gonna explain it to you. Okay. One of the biggest stresses that I had to teach myself is the first time I did 300 burpees, dude. I saw a challenge happen. I'm gonna do it, and I can tell you exactly. I still do them. The same the same feeling happens every single time. First of all, it's like, why the fuck am I doing them? Second of all, when I get started, this sucks. Third of all, it's like, okay, I'm only gonna do 100. And then I get to 100, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do 50 more. So all this negative mindset of like, no, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not. It's like this resistance. And that 175, you're like, fuck, I can't breathe. I literally can't breathe. 210, you're like, okay, I'm almost there. And then I'm like, okay, at 275, okay, I'm almost there. And at 300, it's like, woo! All you do is you fucking yell, dude. That is happiness. Because I'm doing something I know no one else is going to do, or they can do and not willing to do, but they'll never get the feeling that I felt the minute I accomplished that. That is true dopamine happiness that I discovered. Why I didn't need alcohol, why I didn't need to be a bunch of women, why I didn't need to go look at porn, why I didn't need to go overwork. All these vices I used to have went away when I learned I had all the fuel that I needed.
Mm-hmm.
All I needed to do was to tap into that. I didn't know it existed, dude. Fucking yesterday, dude, I was feeling it. I did 50 burpees with nonstop. Nonstop. I was like, damn, that felt good. That is my referring to. It's like this voluntary stress you can put on yourself. That is when you can feel happy, is when this accomplishment happens and then it goes away.
Mm-hmm.
My press kit, no one gives a fuck. No one fucking cared. No one saw me. But it's my personal checkbox, my personal cookie jar that Dave Goggins talks about.
Well, and it's like, even if we do share it with the world, we know that there's going to be like some kudos in there, but it's still going to be probably forgotten anyways. And so it's like, even if we do share it with
Yeah.
someone, people aren't going to care as much as we
Yeah.
think they care, which is fine. That's life, you know. Unless it's your mom or something like someone
Yeah.
like that is be there, right? But I think we overthink what people are actually wanting out of us, and I think it's part of the problem that we're feeling now is like we get all this attention online, or at least we think there's attention, and it can be
Yeah.
addicting. So may as well make yourself happy.
Question for you. You've had so much growth, bro, just in the last 3 years of just kind of us connecting in life. If I would ask you this question, this is the hypothetical. If I would ask this question 4 or 5 years ago when you were in college, how do you think you would have answered the question?
About happiness,
Can men be happy?
probably yeah. I probably would have thought it was a thing. 4 or 5 years ago, I was still trying to figure out what I wanted to do. So I was like, happiness felt like a far away, distant land, but it felt achievable. If you would have asked me 3 years ago, I think I would have been like, yeah, you need to
Oh,
chase
really?
that 24/7. Yeah.
Explain that. Explain that to me. That's what I was searching for.
Um, yeah, I think that's also interesting too. Like just always thinking that you need to. I think that's part of the problem too. Is like thinking that you need to search for the right answer.
Yeah.
Um, because like that's part of exploring, right? Is not knowing what you're gonna get. Um, I think I felt like I was misunderstanding gratitude for happiness, and also just wondering like why am I not happy? I think I was just listening to certain people and misunderstood what their message was, or maybe it was
Yeah.
what they were talking about, and I just didn't realize that when I applied it to real life, it didn't make sense for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed I felt very alone when I was trying to chase that happiness, which was interesting because I thought I was doing the right things to make me happy. So it just felt like I was almost chasing the carrot on the
Yeah.
treadmill, trying to always go after it one more time, one more time, one more time, and didn't. When I got the carrot, I was like, oh, it wasn't really that fun. I thought, yeah.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting? It's like, again, I say this a lot. You remind me a lot of me. I remember when, I think it was because the concept of it's not good enough. It's not good. So I learned happily to satisfy when I was younger, but I was always searching for the next thing, not really enjoying the moment. I never enjoyed the moment. It was like I was always searching for so the next carrot, the next carrot, the next carrot. It's like, oh, that didn't taste too good. And next thing you know, I'm married with kids. I'm still not happy. I think that's why I I I understood the concept a little bit more. Like, okay, I'm getting all these things, but I'm not happy.
Mm.
But I didn't learn that I needed to do for myself. I just wanted to do more. I wanted to work more, go make more money. Thought that making more money would make your mom happy. No, me taking her on dates would have made her happy. Right? Me
Mm-hmm.
like she's my wife would make her happy. Right? But I was chasing it in all the wrong places because I thought that it was the next thing I had to do, as opposed to looking within, asking questions, and actually being okay with the answers.
So I know we have what like 10, 15
Yeah.
left. Just kind of bring it home here. So if you could sum up can man be happy in general, what do you think that is the most appealing to you um, to look forward to down the line? Is there something that you would rather chase or you'd rather explore within yourself instead of just chasing happiness?
Um. Well, let me put it this way. I think the reason why I've been able to become the person I have is because when I defined what happiness really was, is I need to be happy with myself. So I learned the concept of acting like you're the best. Like I have the best life. I have the best kids. I have the best life. So it's called high performance like activation. Like I just learned like I felt like it's not being cocky. It's like I'm doing what I need to do because my family is the best because I'm doing the best. So the first one is high like talk really good about yourself like you're the best. And then the second thing is to be happily dissatisfied. Like really taking things to where they're moments and not of life events to where I got to party or celebrate for days and days and days. Enjoy the moment. And then the last thing was to control my impulses, impulse control. Like really understand that, okay, happiness happens when, okay, I see that. I love that cake. I love fucking cheesecake. I love, is to not overindulge. Maybe have a little bit of, maybe have a little bite, or maybe look at everybody else eating and enjoying the moment as opposed to eating the whole damn thing. Right. So, or learning how to admire a beautiful woman as opposed to like I'm gonna ask her for a number or whatever, right? It's just all these impulses I learned how or even another thing is getting angry. If you notice, I don't lash out anymore. I don't judge anymore. I don't come to conclusions anymore. I really hold my tongue. That impulse control is the self control I had to learn to where I had that my happiness came when I learned how to control aspects of me. That way I can be more present for you
Mm-hmm.
as an individual, right? And so my part of that happiness is just learning how to become this better person by having these traits that I needed for myself so that everybody else could enjoy as well as opposed to, me being an asshole or whatever.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is the impulse control. I think especially as like a young man, because because there's so many different things right now. There's so many things popping up at you, the distractions, the quick little hits of making you feel good. I think feeling validated. I think if for a young person to not need to worry about the validation,
Yeah.
because you can hear it from your parents, you can hear it from your friends, you can hear it from social media, hear it from colleagues. But that also comes with the negative and the positive, right? And not wanting to do it for them.
Yeah.
Not wanting, even sometimes like if you think you want something, because it goes into the conversation of like that short term goal versus that long term goal, right? Like sometimes we have to know which one is most beneficial right then. Is even validation from yourself, I think, is very tough to understand. Where you might want to feel validated because your ego is telling you that you did a good job, but again, not being too comfortable with that short term because you might have to take what you have there and sacrifice it for the long term as well. And I think that might be something that's even harder is not over validating yourself.
Yeah. 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 No, I love your feedback on that. And same question of you. So what where you're at in life, you have a whole different perspective. You're 26 years old, and your definition might change, but in general, how did this episode show up for you in just defining what happiness can be?
I think being okay with not being okay with understanding that happiness is a part of life, but it's not the whole part of life. We have so much emphasis on the positives that we don't appreciate the negatives when the negatives make us us.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because like when you go through that verse and you push through it, you're gonna feel something way more than if you just won all the time too. Winning gets boring after a while, and I think it's nice to win,
Yeah.
but I think we end up losing, which is why I think we get stuck in the cycles. But I think for me, it's just understanding what type of losing I'm willing to accept and how am I going to push through that because it's going to make me a better person.
Well, as you're saying that, one thing that comes to mind is our definitions.
Yeah.
Okay. How do we know it's a loss?
Yeah.
How do we know? What came up for me is when I broke my leg, when I my bike slipped, I just people might have said, "Oh my God, you broke your leg! Like, how are you going to do this? Or I guess you can't do this." And I was just like, "Okay, I'm good. What's going to happen now?" It was the best. It was my medicine. So how do we know the negative isn't the medicine we need? How do we know the loss isn't the negative? Is a negative? It's our definitions. It could be good, but how we're viewing it at the time is because we're expecting a result that's different. We are the ones that we're putting whether it's a negative or positive with our definitions, not understanding that it's just the way of life.
Mm-hmm.
It's our journey. It's our roadmap. It's our book. And so everything's coming in my life right now. What's interesting is like I'm just like, okay, no, I'm just barely learning this still, dude. Like you were with me last year. What was going on in my life? And this year's different. I'm just approaching it different. I'm just really opening up to where okay, this person doesn't want to be in my life. Okay, this person's coming in my life. Okay, this happened at work. Okay, um, this person said this. Okay, so I'm not really getting caught up in the outcome of what I perceive to be right or wrong. I'm just like, okay.
Okay. I love it. I think that's a good way to just kind of wrap it up where just being okay. We don't even know what right now is impacting us. Like we think we know. And I think the biggest thing for me is just having faith, just believe in what you believe that you're doing good and it'll all work out in the long run.
Amen to that. I'll wrap this up.
So yeah, thank you everyone for we had a lot more participation. It was nice to hear from you guys. So we just thank you for asking those good questions, sharing more of your thoughts on how this impacts your life because we all feel somewhat of these feelings, right? We all feel stressed, we feel blessed, we feel happy, we feel sad, and we want to make that a part of your life too and learn from you. Um, So for everyone that was watching, thank you so much. And for everyone watching in the future, if you have any questions or comments that you want us to explore down the line, we would love to talk about them in our next episode. So follow us every Tuesday at 6:30. We'll be here live, Legacy Project. And thank you so much for another great episode.
Next week.
Peace out.
Peace.